Are we putting too much pressure on the homemakers of today? That is the question, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. I grew up with a mom that did everything from scratch, from homemade bread to all of our meals being from scratch. But this was in the 1980s, and in that period, it was still considered normal for most women to just be stay-at-home moms. And we are still putting these kinds of demands and pressures on today's modern women, especially with the rise of the homemaking niche on YouTube, which I'm part of and I love. However, it can be a lot of pressure for today's homemakers to fit into a certain standard. As I'm putting these groceries away and I am getting back from the grocery store, I can tell you that even for myself, I can be paralyzed with fear with what to buy, including this box of Kraft Dinner that, yes, I've bought for my kids. And there are just so many health books out there and so much information against pretty much everything. And it makes it impossible to know what is right, what is wrong, what we should be cooking, and what we should stay away from. And if you do enough reading, you pretty much need to stay away from everything. I've even had people tell me that spinach is not good for you. And so there's so many opinions out there, and as someone that is on YouTube and a homemaker, it can be a lot of pressure for me to do things right. But what I've realized is I really can't do that because there are just too many opinions on what is right and what is wrong. All I can do is do my best. With so much YouTube content online of homemakers making the perfect loaves of sourdough bread, to fermenting foods, to canning, and just all sorts of beautiful things that are very inspiring, it can also be a lot of pressure for us women to be everything, do everything, and it's really an impossible standard when most of us have to have jobs and work to make a living and support our families on top of going to the grocery store, cooking, cleaning our homes, and driving everyone everywhere. It's just absolutely exhausting. And it's not just doing beautiful loaves of sourdough bread. If you enter the world of Instagram, you're going to be seeing everything with the absolute mark of perfection. And this is one of the reasons why I personally don't really get involved with Instagram. It's just too much. Everything is focused on perfection and beauty, and the standards are simply too high. And then we have the homesteaders, the ones that are collecting their own eggs from their own hens and milking their own cows, collecting all of their own vegetables that they've grown themselves, and making their own sausage, making their own pasta, fermenting all of their foods. The list goes on. And although there is just such a wealth of inspiration anywhere you look online, it can also just make you realize that you can never live up to these standards. I have a cookbook here from the wartime period from 1943, and I absolutely adore old vintage cookbooks and old homemaking books because I find it extremely grounding in today's world of perfection. The recipes are very basic and simple, and I really appreciate that. I plan on making a cookie recipe from this cookbook, and I plan on grinding my own wheat berries and doing these cookies entirely from scratch. And I'd like to show you how much work it actually takes just to make cookies from scratch. Because honestly, you could go to the store and just go buy some cookies and you don't have to put this much work into it. But it really does take so much planning, thought, and intention to do anything from scratch. I am extremely lucky and blessed to live on an organic farm where my husband and I have a business where we sell homegrown vegetables. And this means that I get to work from home, which means that I can create a schedule around my work and around caring for my home. And in today's society, this is privileged. I've spent all of my adult life learning how to be a homemaker, and I've also learned how to grow my own food, how to can and preserve food. I've learned many different arts of the domestic variety. And I can tell you that it's a lot of hard work, and every single skill, like making sourdough bread or canning and preserving your own food, it all takes an insurmountable amount of effort to learn. And it can be thrilling and it can be a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of time. And these skills are something that you learn over the course of a period of time. And so for this kind of pressure to be put, especially on young homemakers who are just starting out, I feel like it really isn't fair. My parents have had this wheat grinder since the 1970s, and when they bought themselves a newer, lighter version, they ended up giving this one to me because it's very heavy, but it is a stone grinder and I love it. I had to go to a town a few towns over in order to go get this organic soft white wheat, which is especially good for things like cookies and muffins because it's lower in gluten and it's very beautiful. So I'm going to be making cookies with this. But even just going to get this and having the wheat grinder is something. And then we need to make sure that we have all of our baking ingredients. And, it takes time to create and procure a pantry that you can rely on. And it takes time to learn how to utilize things and how to make things from scratch. And quite honestly, I don't always feel like it. There are days where those boxes of Kraft Dinner are getting pulled out because I'm exhausted and I don't care. From someone who has cooked from scratch for many years and tried to cook my family dinners every single night, I can tell you that the work becomes exhausting and it does take a toll over the years. And I've heard a lot of older women say that they don't cook anymore, especially women who their kids are gone. It's just them. They might be living alone or with a partner, and they've spent so many years doing this that they just feel done. And I do think that's kind of sad, but I totally understand that once there's no one left to cook for, there's just no reason to do it because cooking is a form of love. I thought I had butter taken out that was softened, but I didn't. And if you're ever caught in this situation, you can grate the butter, and this really helps it get soft very fast, and you can use it right away. If I wasn't on YouTube, would I still be cooking from scratch? Yes, I absolutely would, because not only is it healthier, but it's just a way of life. And I actually went through a period when we began farming where I decided that I wasn't going to be cooking from scratch. I went to Walmart and I went to the freezer section and I picked up everything frozen and everything quick. And we lived that way for at least one entire year. And let me tell you, it started to feel pretty toxic and we were all pretty unhappy. And after that stint, I really made a commitment to myself that I was going to be cooking from scratch for my family as much as possible. With that being said, I do want to bring to your attention that there are different levels of cooking from scratch. Cooking from scratch can mean different things to different people. For me personally, I'm not going and buying a pasta machine and making all of my pasta from scratch. And I don't raise animals, so I don't have any meat or eggs that I have sourced myself. I do grow my own vegetables, and I feel very lucky that I don't really need to buy vegetables at the grocery store, at least this time of year. But I feel like at some point we need to let ourselves off the hook that it's okay to go buy pasta at the store. It's okay to do the best that we can, especially within our budgets. And that is the most important thing, is staying within our budgets, because we just can't do unrealistic things in order to give our family the absolute best. Everything is getting so much more expensive. And so it's always important to live within our means. And so making homemade cookies for my family is definitely a treat because it took a lot of work to source all of the ingredients. And even the chocolate chips are getting very expensive. And so this is not something that I'm making on a regular basis for my family. It's a treat. I want to encourage you in today's video to not only let yourself off of the hook of being perfect and doing everything up to a certain standard, we're all human and we all deserve grace in this department. And I also want to say that we also need to let others around us have that same liberty and that same amount of grace. As a collector of vintage cookbooks and someone that loves looking back in history to see how homemakers did things in the past, I want to bring up the fact that there was a time when women became liberated. They no longer were chained to the stoves. They had equipment and things that made life easier for them. Canned and frozen foods were more readily available at the grocery stores, and they had more equipment in their kitchens that sped things up and made things quicker. And women definitely took advantage of that. I have a cookbook from the 1960s with a lot of jiffy meals and things that made life easier, whether it was using canned soups in their recipes or what have you. And I feel like this was a celebration. This was something that was praised, that they had the ability to make life easier on themselves. And I feel like we tend to forget about that these days. And I think if we allow ourselves some grace in the cooking department and allow ourselves to make things easier and, do the best we can as far as healthy ingredients, but trying to do things in a way that doesn't stretch us, then I think that this will allow us to have the energy, the ambition, and the drive to make homemade cookies for our families or put that extra bit of juice into creating something beautiful. In today's world of perfection online, I want to be the voice that tells you it's okay. You don't need to be perfect. You are beautiful just the way you are, and your family is lucky to have you. I feel that we all have our own abilities and talents and things that we've learned. And when you put thousands of people together online that all have separate abilities and talents, it can start to skew the reality of what is realistic for a single person to attain. And this is where we need to be very cautious and recognize this fact when we are looking for inspiration online. I, for one, am looking for balance in my life. And I want to have a mix of easy meals that are quick and simple and only take 30 minutes to make. And then I'd like to have some meals that take a little bit longer and are a little bit more work and effort. And I think that balance is absolutely key so that we don't burn ourselves out. And this allows us to be able to take better care of our families. This was a lot of fun to make these cookies for my family on a day that I had off, and I'm excited to dig in and try one. And using the ground flour that I ground myself, I think ended up with a slightly different texture to the cookie than probably what would have been with regular store-bought flour. But they turned out delicious and they are healthy, and I can feel good about serving this to my family. But it did take a lot of effort and a lot of time to source the ingredients. I will leave the cookie recipe in the description box below. And I want to thank you so much for joining me in today's video. I think this was an important topic for discussion. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. I come out with a new video every single Wednesday, and I hope to see you next week. Take care and have a wonderful day.